Thank you. Raymond Kwok from Kwok Group LLP and VC.com. Professor, fantastic presentation. I got two questions to ask. Yes. The first one is, in your project where you have the vision, how long it take the vision between what you, in your mind, for execution? Because when I look at a palm I was quite surprised. Within a year, the palm can come out. Yeah. But I think that whatever you have designed may take longer. Then the economic questions is basically how much it costs, because in your presentation, there's no talk about money. And then, how do you justify the cost and benefit return? And the third one is, if I am owning a property, just before you start building that new extension of the coaster, my property value will go down because the coastal area is much more beautiful, and I am sure that, how do you reconcile that questions?
The first question, if I remember well, is when you make a design, how do you implement it and how long? Now, I had an advantage in the Netherlands because for 33 years I was member of the government of the province of South Holland. And then I was in a position to convince my colleagues of all political parties how interesting this was for the Netherlands. So I created, for instance, this demarcation line. But first I explained it very clearly. And then I got support from all my colleagues. And then unanimously they voted for. And that quickened the process. The same was with Mr. Lely of the South Sea Works, the transformation of the South Sea into a freshwater lake and these very large boulders. He was 3 times Minister of Infrastructure and Water Management. So he succeeded, he could influence the process. I could influence it. Generally, I gave 2,500 lectures, also on the population. So I did not only work top down, but also bottom up. You have to explain very clearly to the population. That's also helpful. A third helpful element is when you combine it with cultural heritage values. People trend to be conservative. But if I tell them there was an old coastline which we are going to restore, then they open up. And sometimes I say to them, where you are now living, there were 3 little towns before, but they were all washed away. What do you want? Want you to wash away or to create? Then there's number 4. Indeed, I had a lot of protesters at some age. He said, when I walk with my dog and go to the beach, I'm in 5 minutes there. Now with your plan, it's 20 minutes. So I said, it improves your condition. Not only for you, but also for the dog. And then there's another question. When you have a nature reserve close to your home, the value goes up. At one stage, I got a very angry letter from a person who lived near the coast. He said, you owe me 100,000 euros because of your plan, because the value of my house goes down. I said, if I would have that money, I would clearly give it to you. But if the value goes up, you have to give me 100,000, maybe $200,000. Now what happened, my plan was still there. After 3 years, the worth of the house doubled. 300,000. I never heard of him again. So, when you create in the new land, you must do it for safety, You must always include a new nature reserve area. In all my designs, it's always coupled with the new nature reserve areas. And I always get the support from the NGOs, because they say, finally, there's someone who not only looks at a condominium, but takes into account nature values, but they create extra value for the existing housing. That is the answer. Now I must go back to you. Did I answer all your questions? Oh, well, the second plan, the so-called Slufterdam plan, the first extension of the Rotterdam port was, I think, 300 million euros. Its worth is now $2 billion US. So it costs a lot of money, but you have. And it works two ways. It's not only that you create value because you have also economic functions in it, but there's another factor: you create safety. So the risk of losing money through flooding, it's another question. You have to take into account that as well. So in the end, all these coastal extensions, if carefully designed, if nature is taken into account, are in the long run, all of them positive. All of them, anywhere in the world. But you have to design it in such a way as I explained.